Hello and welcome to another video review. This is Terraria for PC. Now this is considered an action-adventure game, although it's really not so much an action-adventure game. It was developed by Relogic, and they also published it through Steam, so that's your distribution service that you get it from. And a lot of you are probably wondering, well, why the hell is he reviewing this? Because I'll get to that in a minute, why they would be so concerned about that. But it was actually gifted to me by JamesZero. So thanks for that, dude. He sent me the gift and it said, "Here's your review copy." And I think he sent it more just to have so I could play it and goof off with it. But anyway, so here's the review of it. Thanks to JamesZero. Now this is a 2D side-scroller, so the graphics are composed pretty much entirely of sprites and a few little lighting things here and there. But it's pretty basic as to what you get. It's done in a retro style, so everything looks like it's from the 16-bit era, and it actually pulls that off very well. I was very pleasantly surprised by the color scheme. This is a very bright game. Just bright, lots of color. Very, very welcome change from all the gray and brown. I almost said ground, gray and brown that you see in all the 3D shooters and stuff of the day. So it's a nice change of pace. It really does feel like it's not meant to be taken very seriously at all. Stuff's kind of silly and just kind of whimsical in terms of the overall art style and the presentation. Animations are practically non-existent. It's literally just the arm moving around in a circle, and then you look kind of like you're running when you're moving, but that's about it. So you really don't notice the animations all that much. But that does kind of leave a problem too, because there's not a whole heck of a lot going on, except for enemies just kind of bouncing around and doing their thing. But there's really not a lot going on in the game world that really kind of gives you that atmosphere. It just kind of feels like, hey, I'm here in this empty kind of world. Oh, look, there's an enemy. That's kind of how it feels. It doesn't really feel like you're in a vibrant, alive world. It just feels like you're in this kind of sandbox thing. Then the sound design is also, much like the graphics, very, very basic. It's very sparse, let's put it that way. You get basically one music track that loops the entire time, and it does change depending on what tile set you're in. Like, say, if you're in the above ground, then it's going to play one song. If you're underground, it's going to play another. If you're above ground and you're at night, it's going to play something else. That sort of thing. But to be honest, the music really wears on you after a while, because it's the same thing over and over and over, and there's really no variation in it whatsoever until you get to a new tile set, and it's just kind of like, oh, thank you. But so I recommend when you play this, if you do play this game, to turn off the music and just play something through like your MP3 player or something like that, just so you don't have to put up with that looping music over and over again. I mean, that said, it's not bad music by any means. It's just, it doesn't feel like it's really important. It just kind of, it's there to fill the void, and it doesn't really, it's nothing memorable, I should say. And the sound effects themselves are extremely wimpy. I mean, you've got a basic dirt or wood or something like that, a dirt sound, like for picking your way through dirt. You got one for hitting metal. You've got one for hitting things with your sword or whatever weapon you've got. You got like a basic gunshot, and that's about it, really. I mean, there's not a lot of sound effects in this game, and it does kind of get boring after a while. So what I ended up doing was just muting the sound altogether and playing with my MP3 player on loop. So, and that actually worked out fairly well. So the sound design itself is just very forgettable very quickly. Now, I'm sure a lot of you are wondering why I'm reviewing this, besides the fact that it was requested and gifted to me. And to be honest with you, if this weren't requested and gifted, then I wouldn't have reviewed it. So if you want me to review something that I generally wouldn't do otherwise, then gift it to me and say, here, review this. So, but anyway, a lot of people would be wondering that, because this is basically considered the 2D version of Minecraft. And for those of you who've been following my videos for a while, you know that I can't stand Minecraft. I find it insanely boring, and that's actually what I thought I would run into with this game. And so I started up with a grain of salt. I'm like, hey, I just do this while my videos are uploading. And that's exactly what I did. And I found out that when you're doing it while something else is happening, like say you're uploading a video to YouTube or say something's compiling, it's actually good for taking up that time. Because you don't really have to go in and invest a lot of time into it. You can just jump in, do things for a little bit, and then jump back out, and it's no big deal. And this game also runs on pretty much any computer you can find anymore. That was built in basically the last decade. So, as long as you got at least like a Pixel Shader 1.1 video card, which those haven't been actively used since about 2004. So, I mean, if you've got a computer with that, you're good. I mean, it might run a little slow. I mean, I ran it on two different computers. First, my gaming PC, and then I ran it on my crappy laptop that is a 1 gigahertz CPU, and it's got a built-in graphics chip, and it ran perfectly. So it's very robust as to what you can run it on, and I encountered absolutely no bugs whatsoever, at least none to my knowledge. I mean, I think there probably are bugs in the game. I just haven't found them yet. But there were no crashes. I mean, on the laptop it ran a little slow at times, but that didn't really bother me. That was just from my laptop being kind of wimpy. So it's a very stable, very performance-savvy game. And so you don't really have any problems with that. It's also got a very light footprint. It's got about, I think it's the actual game itself is about 12 megabytes. Now, granted, the worlds can take up a lot. I mean, a friend of mine saved a large world, and he said the file took up about 100 megabytes. So it can take up quite a bit if you have a lot of worlds saved on your hard drive. But as long as they're the big worlds, anyway. I mean, if they're the smaller worlds, it's not so big. The files aren't so big. But that doesn't mean the worlds themselves are small. I mean, even the small maps, which I've tried on my laptop just to worry about disk space and performance. Even the small world was quite large. I mean, it took me quite a while to get to places. So we're talking a pretty huge game world, no matter what you choose, and it's pretty much wide open as to what you can do. But early on, you find out that this game is very hostile to you. It's not like Minecraft, where you start it up and you're basically given free reign to do whatever you want, and you're given no direction whatsoever. You don't really have any incentive to do much of anything. Instead of that, in Terraria, you're actually given something early on. You're given a guide as an NPC. You get a guide, and he will tell you different things, like how you can get other NPCs to join you. You can also get a dryad, a merchant, an arms dealer, a demolitions expert, and a nurse to join you and do other things. So, like, the nurse will heal you, the merchant will sell and buy things, arms dealer will sell you ammo and guns, demolitions guy will sell you stuff like dynamite and grenades, so you can blast through things. But you have to accomplish different objectives for each one. Like, say you want a dryad, you actually have to beat a boss monster to get it. And they'll give you things like purification powder, which you can use to get rid of the corruption, which is this tile set that's where you can find some really cool stuff if you go deep enough. But it's also really dangerous, because you got these things flying around. They're called Eaters of Souls, and they'll come after you. You got like eat horrible devourers, which are basically just giant worms. You'll find giant worms as you dig around, and they'll come after you, and they're pretty easy to get rid of, but the devourers are much harder to kill. And in the corruption, you'll also find shadow orbs, which you can smash and actually get things from, like a lot of treasure. And that's something that Minecraft doesn't do. It doesn't give you treasure. You just dig and dig and dig, and you find resources, and you use those resources to make whatever you want. Like say you want like a pot, just a pot to put flowers in. You actually have to build it. You can't just find it. Whereas in Terraria, you actually can find things like that. It's not necessarily the same thing, but Like, you can go dig, dig, and dig, and you can find, like, gold bars and different pieces of ore. You can find gems. You can find, like, guns just lying in chests deep underground and stuff like that. And so it actually lends to a sense of discovery. When you actually find something, it's usually kind of cool that you can find it. And unlike Minecraft, where you've got a very narrow field of view in terms of where things are going, in Terraria, since it's 2D, you can actually see where things kind of are. And it really does lend to, hey, I can look over here and I can find this. And if I go over here, I can find this. And so it doesn't feel as tedious as just digging, digging, digging. Oh, look, I happen to find one piece of coal. Because you can actually now look for things and actually find them. And the crafting system is much more simplified than it is in Minecraft. Where Minecraft, you actually have to basically have a formula sheet right in front of you to know where everything is, know how to build things and that sort of thing. In Terraria, you can actually just have the resources in your inventory, and if you're at the right station, like say you've got a workbench available to you, and say you want to build a background wall, when you have the resources available to you, that will just show up in the list of things you can craft. And it does the same for pretty much anything. I mean, if you want to craft, like, say, gold bars or a sword or something like that, if you have the resources, you can do it. And if you're in the right spot, of course. And there are several different tile sets you can explore. I mean, you got the standard underground, you got the above ground, you've got the hell, basically. If you get far enough underground, you will actually run into hell, and it's extremely hard to survive there. And so you really do have an incentive to actually get as much good gear as you possibly can. If you go far enough in one direction, you'll come across a dungeon, and that's where some really, really good stuff is, but you also have to beat a boss to actually get in it. And if you go high enough, you'll actually find floating islands, and that's kind of cool too. So there's really a lot of exploration that you can do that you really can't do in Minecraft, because in Minecraft you're more concerned with actually finding resources and using them. Whereas in Terraria, once you've got a shelter up from the hostile world that's around you, you can use that as a base of operations and just say, okay, I want to go explore over here and I want to see what I can find. And so it really does give you more direction. It does give you more help. And I think that's part of why I actually kind of like it. I know that's kind of weird. I mean, you wouldn't think that because I can't stand Minecraft, you'd think that I can't stand Terraria, but I actually kind of like it. Now, granted, I'm not going to play this thing non-stop like Minecraft players do with Minecraft, but it's good for those times where, like, say I'm uploading something, and I just want to do something to pass the time while that's uploading. Well, that's where Terraria comes in. It's good for that kind of thing. But just for playing it on a large basis, like several hours at a time, it's really not that good. So, and I had to take the price into consideration too. It's $10, and for $10, it's actually not too bad. I was very pleasantly surprised with it. And I honestly thought I was going to hate this game going into it, but I don't. And it took me a little while to really get it, but seriously, I actually kind of like it. So, overall, is it a good game? I wouldn't say it's great or good or any of that. I'd say it's a good time waster if you don't have anything else that you need to do. If you've got something else that you're doing in the background and you just say you want to check on that every so often, but it's going to take a while. It's good for those kind of times, but it's not good for just playing for hours on end like a lot of people want to do with a lot of games. So overall, it's not too bad. I actually give it a 3 out of 5, and thanks for watching.